Welcome to Global Hub. Updates. Please subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon for more updates. The tropical sun beat down relentlessly on the shimmering expanse of the South China Sea, its rays glinting off the rolling waves as far as the eye could see. This region, known for its breathtaking beauty, is also infamous for its simmering tensions and high-stakes confrontations. On this particular day, the BRP Malapascua, a Philippine Navy vessel, set out on what was supposed to be a routine mission, resupplying the small contingent of Filipino Marines stationed at the remote and contested Second Thomas Shoal. The crew, seasoned by countless patrols, expected another day of vigilance and duty. But as the ship cut through the waves, a sense of unease hung in the air. The crew exchanged nervous glances, aware that the waters they sailed were anything but ordinary. This day, they sensed, would be different from all the rest. Suddenly, on the horizon, a massive Chinese Coast Guard ship loomed into view, its white hull and bold markings unmistakable. It was closing in fast, its intentions clear and unmistakable. The Chinese vessel didn't come to simply observe or patrol. It maneuvered aggressively, cutting across the Malapascua's path, attempting to block its progress. The message was unmistakable: "You shall not pass." In doing so, it blatantly disregarded international maritime law and the rules of safe passage. Without warning, a powerful jet of water erupted from the Chinese ship's water cannon, slamming into the Filipino vessel with tremendous force. The impact rocked the Malapascua violently, sending crew members scrambling for cover and damaging equipment on deck. The message from the Chinese Coast Guard was unmistakable: turn back or face further consequences. The Filipino sailors braced themselves, their resolve tested in the face of overwhelming force. This was no ordinary maritime encounter. It was a flashpoint in a region where sovereignty, national pride, and international law collide. The standoff between the two ships symbolized the broader struggle for control over the South China Sea, a region claimed by multiple nations but dominated by China's growing assertiveness. Footage of the incident quickly spread across social media and news outlets worldwide, capturing the world's attention. The images of the Chinese Coast Guard's aggressive tactics went viral, sparking outrage and concern both in the Philippines and abroad. Beijing's sweeping claims over the South China Sea ignore a landmark 2016 International Tribunal ruling, which invalidated much of China's so-called nine-dash line. This puts China in direct conflict with its neighbors, especially the Philippines, who rely on these waters for livelihood and security. The water cannon attack was not just an isolated incident, it was a calculated escalation. Analysts saw it as a test of the Philippines' resolve, and by extension, the commitment of its treaty ally, the United States. Would Manila stand firm? Would Washington come to its aid if the situation worsened? Around the globe, governments and military leaders watched the unfolding crisis with growing alarm. Was this a mere act of intimidation, or did it cross the line into an armed attack? The world waited to see how the United States would respond, knowing that any miscalculation could have far-reaching consequences. The standoff underscored the rising friction between a resurgent China, determined to assert its dominance, and a United States equally determined to uphold freedom of navigation and support its allies in the Asia-Pacific. The balance of power in the region hung in the balance. The tense moments on that fateful August day served as a chilling reminder of how quickly a local dispute can escalate into a major international crisis. In these contested waters, a single spark could ignite a conflict with consequences far beyond the horizon, leaving the world to wonder what the next encounter might bring. The recent incident at Second Thomas Shoal is just one example of China's broader, long-term strategy to assert its influence and control in the South China Sea. This region has become a flashpoint, with China steadily increasing its presence and taking assertive actions to reinforce its territorial claims. At the heart of the dispute is Beijing's controversial nine-dash line, a sweeping boundary that covers nearly the entire South China Sea. These claims overlap with the exclusive economic zones of several Southeast Asian nations, including the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Brunei, leading to frequent diplomatic standoffs and rising tensions. Control of this vital waterway is crucial for China, as the South China Sea is not only rich in oil, gas, and fisheries, but also serves as a key artery for global trade. Every year, trillions of dollars worth of goods pass through these shipping lanes, making the region strategically indispensable for both regional and global economies. To enforce its sweeping claims, China has constructed and militarized artificial islands, equipping them with airstrips, radar systems, and missile batteries. These actions have significantly altered the balance of power in the region, directly challenging the traditional naval dominance of the United States and its allies. This rapid expansion and militarization have put China on a collision course with its neighbors, especially the Philippines and Vietnam, who have responded with diplomatic protests, increased patrols, and calls for international support to defend their own territorial rights. The United States, determined to uphold freedom of navigation and international law, regularly sends warships through the disputed waters. These so-called freedom of navigation operations are meant to challenge China's sweeping claims and reassure U.S. allies in the region. As a result, the South China Sea has become the stage for a tense and growing rivalry. The U.S. views China's actions as a direct threat to the rules-based international order, raising the risk of miscalculation and confrontation. Meanwhile, China accuses the U.S. of interfering in regional affairs and undermining its sovereignty, fueling a dangerous power struggle that could have far-reaching consequences for peace and stability in Asia. The U.S. military presence in the Philippines has deep historical roots, stretching back over a century. After the Spanish-American War in 1898, the Philippines became a U.S. territory, and the archipelago quickly transformed into a strategic outpost for American interests in Asia. The islands were not just a distant colony, they became a crucial military hub, shaping the region's geopolitics for decades. Massive installations like Subic Bay Naval Base and Clark Air Base were constructed, turning the Philippines into the largest U.S. military staging ground in the Pacific outside of Hawaii. These bases supported thousands of American personnel and served as launching points for operations throughout Asia, especially during times of conflict. During the Cold War, these fortresses became even more vital. Subic and Clark were at the heart of America's strategy to contain communism, projecting power across Southeast Asia. U.S. warships, aircraft, and troops regularly trained and deployed from these bases, deterring adversaries and reassuring allies. However, by the late 1980s, the mood in the Philippines began to shift. Rising nationalism and a growing sense of sovereignty fueled widespread protests against the U.S. military presence. Many Filipinos saw the bases as symbols of colonialism and demanded their removal. In 1991, a historic decision was made. The Philippine Senate voted to reject the treaty that would have extended the U.S. base's stay. This decision was reinforced by the catastrophic eruption of Mount Pinatubo, which devastated nearby military facilities and made continued operations nearly impossible. The U.S. military packed up and departed, ending nearly a century of continuous presence. The lowering of the American flag marked the close of an era, leaving behind empty runways and silent docks. Yet, history has a way of coming full circle. As China's influence and assertiveness in the South China Sea have grown, the Philippines and the U.S. have begun to reconsider their military partnership. The idea of an American return to Philippine bases is once again on the table, driven by new regional threats and shifting alliances. The Philippines' strategic location is crucial in the first island chain, enclosing China's coastal waters. For China, breaking out of this chain is a primary objective. For the U.S., reinforcing it is key to containment. The Philippines sits at a critical choke point, with islands close to Taiwan. A U.S. presence here would be invaluable in monitoring Chinese movements and disrupting potential invasions. The Philippines controls vital sea lanes, essential for both commercial and military passage. This geography makes the Philippines an unsinkable barrier, a cornerstone of the first island chain. The return of U.S. forces to the Philippines is under the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, EDCA. Signed in 2014, it allows U.S. forces to rotate through specific Philippine bases. The bases remain under Philippine control, emphasizing sovereignty. EDCA grants access to strategic locations, with new sites added in 2023 due to regional tensions. The U.S. can pre-position equipment and build facilities, allowing a scalable presence. This model is politically sustainable and flexible, dispersing assets across multiple locations. For the Philippines, EDCA enhances military capabilities and infrastructure, deterring aggression. The US and China are shifting military strategies, with China developing anti-access area denial, A2AD, to deter US forces. In response, the US has adopted Agile Combat Employment, AAC, using smaller, dispersed locations. EDCA sites in the Philippines are ideal for ACE, complicating China's targeting. This dispersal enhances US forces' survivability, countering China's A2AD strategy. The Philippines is a critical playing field for these strategies, allowing the US to operate within the first island chain. From China's perspective, US-Philippines defense cooperation is a direct threat. Beijing sees EDCA sites as forward staging grounds for the US, part of a containment strategy. The site's proximity to Taiwan complicates China's military planning. Strengthening the US-Philippines alliance undermines China's influence in Southeast Asia. In response, China has increased patrols in the South China Sea, leading to more confrontations. Beijing warns of consequences for this closer alliance, blending diplomatic pressure with military intimidation. For the Philippines, deepening its US alliance is a high-stakes gamble. The partnership boosts national security, deterring Chinese aggression. US aid and EDCA site upgrades modernize the Philippine military. However, closer US alignment risks economic retaliation from China, a major trading partner. Critics argue EDCA undermines sovereignty, fearing entanglement in US-China conflicts. The Philippines must balance security benefits against potential economic costs. The US return to the Philippines marks a pivotal moment in Asia's strategic landscape. This alliance is part of a broader US strategy to counter China's influence. The Philippines' role is critical, providing a geographical anchor in Southeast Asia. Increased military presence raises the risk of miscalculation, with high stakes for regional stability. The challenge is to manage competition responsibly, preventing rivalry from escalating into conflict. The future of the Indo-Pacific hinges on whether this US presence deters aggression or provokes instability.